Bienvenidos a la Midwest Flyways podcast. I am your host, Joey Basayo. On mi derecho, I have Cal Ness, and we also have a special guest, Graham. Thank you so much for coming on.
Graham Greseth, owner of Maxed Out Guides.
What's up, guys?
What's up, man?
Let's do it.
What's up, bro? Hey, Graham, this podcast is brought to you by Weatherby. I don't know if you've ever shot a Weatherby, but we got some new Sorexes in, 20s and 12s. Mm-hmm. They shoot like an absolute dream.
Awesome.
Made in Italy,
Okay.
hand painted in the USA.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's like $500-600 cheaper than a Benelli.
Yeah, I think they're like $14.99.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
a Sorex.
And they run just like them. They're incredible.
Sweet.
Big
Really
fan.
nice gun. So go check them out, weatherby.com. Graham, I wanted to start with Kansas
Okay.
because I came down this year.
Yep.
And, you know, while we were there, obviously had a lot of conversations about what was going on with weather and all that stuff. And I
Yep.
just thought we could start, I was interested talking to you about it because so much has changed in your area.
Yep.
And I know that we've gotten a lot of messages from people too, talking about, what they've relied on in their area for so many years, changing. And obviously this happens, with different places with waterfowl and, you're basically reliant on weather and food, for the most part.
Yep.
But can you talk a little bit about some of the nuances that have occurred for you in Kansas, especially because you live in Minnesota.
Yep.
And so navigating some of that can be a little bit harder. And I know you have people that live there that work for you.
Yep.
Help run that, division, but just talk a little bit about what's changed and how things have changed.
Yeah. Kansas has changed a lot. And when we first went down there, I don't remember the years. We've been going down there like 10 years now, call it 8 to 10 years, somewhere in
Decade,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. And when we first went down there, where we hunt, we would never see field hunters. Like when we first started going down there, like if we talked about killing mallards in a field, they were like, "What? You mean? Well, there's no pond out there." Well, yeah, we're not.
Right.
We want to go kill them in that cornfield.
Yeah.
Very traditional duck
right,
hunters. Yeah.
Right. So it was just wide open. Okay. And it was phenomenal. And then things change, you have another outfitter move in, then that outfitter goes away, but then another outfitter replaces them, and then another outfitter comes in and he goes away, and then, but then they just kind of keep slowly building. So you start getting more pressure in the area, and that's a big piece of it. But then, then you've got climate, and you've got weather changes, and you've got shifts in when the birds come down and what time they come down. Then on top of it, in the last 3-4 years, it's been extremely dry down there. So we have lost, I don't know the number. It's over 50% of our ponds that were,
shit.
Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot of
This is the part that blew my mind the most,
Yeah. And it might legitimately be closer to 75%. We have lost so much water down there the last 3-4 years that, the ducks that we do have now get hyper concentrated. We still get ducks. It's not like we don't have ducks, but they are so concentrated to the refuges and the reservoirs that are holding water where they can, get a little break. Yeah. So we have areas like, I think we were talking about this when you were down there, like the lodge that we stay at. When we first started going down there was 3 roosts that, I don't know. On any given day could hold 15,000 mallards, and, sometimes they would hold another 25,000 snows, and there'd be some Canadas, and there'd be some lesser, some specks. They're gone. Like none of those roosts are there anymore.
Right.
Wow.
So there's literally whole areas that we used to when you're running 3 groups a day down there, that's kind of what we do. We got 3 groups of 8 clients that we're running out at a time. You kind of have areas, you send people. It's like, so you send people here and you send people there and you send people here. All your scouts are kind of going in different directions. When you've got, 3 roosts that hold that many birds that are within 10 miles of your lodge, it makes it really easy,
right.
And when you lose all that, like that's a big deal. Because it's not just us that's losing that. Like all the local hunters that are there, they're losing those opportunities. So everybody gets funneled to the areas where the birds are. And it just creates a tremendous amount of pressure on those birds.
And just general bullshit of running into other people.
Just stupid stuff.
Roost busting.
Yes.
Sky busting.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll get into the roost, and I'm sure we'll talk about this. And there's kind of some differences in Kansas about, everywhere else you go in, like in the Dakotas and Minnesota here, man. If you go and hunt a roost with ducks on it in Minnesota, you better have somebody at your car watching it because, people get pissed.
Yep.
Okay, down there, that is a rite of passion. Like that's how they hunt ducks.
Right.
They hunt roost ponds down there all the time, and it's no big deal. That's like when we first started down there, we never did that, like because we never did it up here.
Right.
We hunted, we would hunt the river, we'd hunt fields, we'd do those things, but we just never would do that. And then kind of over time, and you start to get to know some of the people down there, like that's just what they do.
Yeah.
Like more often than not, like if you're a local in Kansas,
you hunt roost ponds.
You're gonna hunt a roost pond. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see a pond, you see a cattle pond with a couple thousand ducks on it. You're in there tomorrow morning.
Right.
Yep.
And when you have as much water, you guys have been down there before. When you have a bunch of water, you can get away with that.
Right.
Because there's
enough nearby that they'll just hop a half mile.
right. Yep. And you got a new hunt tomorrow, and then when they move that one, so then they maybe move 5 miles. But they're not leaving the area.
Right.
And that's really what has become. So like when you start combining, we always kind of look for as hunters like that easy fix, like it's that one thing. Well, it's not just one thing. It's a combination of just a lot of different things. And that's one of them. I think we had 3 years, where we had the La Nina or El Nino. I can't remember which one is which, but we've seen it here. It's been, when was the last time that we had a cold ass November? 4 or 5 years?
2021.
Yeah. And I think 2020,
if I 2020, but
yeah. And I think even before that, because we had one cold November, but the one before that, and maybe it might have been the two before that,
right,
were super warm.
Yep.
So, all of those things, all of those things add up to just creating more challenges. And so like when you guys were down there, so I'm sure you guys have, talked about that hunt, but like we had a field set up where, my guys that live down there, born and raised down there, like this might be the biggest feed I've ever seen.
Oh, the amount of fucking mallards that were using this field, scary.
Yeah. Wild.
Do you feel like when they're all on one big body of water like that, you're more prone to what you're saying? Like of the nocturnal shit?
Well, it depends on when you get there, right? So, we had a big cold front that came through right before they came down, and
yeah, it was like ending the morning we got there.
Yep. So it was like a 3-4 day stretch where they made a bunch of ice, and people are always panicking, like, did we lose all the birds? No, we didn't lose all the birds. The birds just
got even smaller in a group.
Yeah, they just get hyper concentrated, and so what ends up happening is like you're gonna shoot the shit out of them for a couple days, okay? But then
on that front,
on that front. But then those ducks figure it out really quick, and there really isn't a rhyme or reason of how you can hunt them, because if you see 30 to 40,000 mallards in a cornfield, you're going to hunt that.
No doubt.
You can't look at that and think, I don't think we should hunt this tomorrow because I think the ducks are going to go in a completely different direction.
Right. When they've been in there for 3 days.
Right.
And by the way, it was probably closer to like 50 or 60,000.
Yeah. I mean, it was wild. So like you have to hunt that. Okay. But then you hunt it and the ducks don't feed. They don't feed in the morning. You're looking at the weather. Well, maybe they're going to come out. It's 2. They could come out at 2, or the wind's going to pick up. Could that push them up? The wind's going to jump from like 5 miles an hour to 15. That could get them off the water. So we better be there for that because we just don't know. And then, all of a sudden it ends up happening and, birds just get up and they go the other way.
Yeah, another thing that's really hard about hunting when they get that concentrated like that. I mean, and guys, it was so many fucking mallards. Like it was legit probably 50 or 60,000. I was hunting with Luke from Wild Faith, and he came with and was taking pictures and stuff. And when we saw those birds getting up and flying around and stuff, and then using the field before us hunting it.
Yep.
He's like, I've never seen that many mallards in a field.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I'm being honest with you, Luke, I don't know if I've ever seen 60,000 mallards in a field.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's a lot of
It's
fucking
magical.
mallards. But the problem is they come out in groups of 3,000.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't convince 3,000 mallards to do anything unless they're already doing it.
Right.
And, is what I think you were getting at. What ended up happening on that hunt was they came up, they do their usual thing. They get up, they fly around. And this is we're an afternoon hunt.
Yeah.
Okay. They've been in there in the afternoon, 2 o'clock every day, 3 o'clock every day, like clockwork for 3 days in a row. And they get up at 3 o'clock, just like they're supposed to. And they just fly right over the field. We shot 10 ducks, I think.
Yep.
Right away when they first started getting up. And then it was just dead. And they're getting up in groups of 3,000 to 5,000. And they fly, they do a big loop. And then they just go right back to the fucking roost.
Yeah.
And they go and they sit back down. When do they want to feed, Graham? Oh, about 10 minutes after shooting light. They're all landing in your fucking decoys while you're picking them up.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those classic scenarios. But I think it's really hard to hunt that many mallards. You get foaming at the mouth. You get real excited. And Joey, you can talk about that hunt you had in North Dakota where you guys hunted probably 30,000 maybe. Is that what it was? Maybe 30K?
There's been a couple times. There was one. You're talking about the time with Wade?
Yeah, and everything worked out perfect. They came out in small groups.
It was 35, 50K. It was gross. They started coming out in groups of 10 to 20. And then they started dumping in groups of 60 plus. And it was chaos.
And that's perfect. Even if you can keep them under 100 to a group, I think you have something to work with.
Well, no, that's what was landing. There were still ducks circling the entire time.
I know, but what these birds were doing is they were if they went down in a field across the road from us for 5 fucking minutes, 5,000 all went down at the same time.
Good luck competing with
they
that.
They're not coming in. Oh, there's 5,000 in the air, but they're grouped into hundreds and they're going to come in 50 packs.
Yeah.
No. They're grouped in 5,000. All 5,000 are going to sit down in this field and eat for 5 fucking minutes and then get back up and go back to the roost.
Yep.
You sounded like Charlie Day when you did that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but that's what they do. And I just think whenever you're in that situation where you're trying to convince that many birds, you're in big trouble.
Yeah. Well, what also ends up happening is it's if you're hunting honkers, right? You're a mile off the roost. Okay. You're the second cornfield off the roost. Everything's feeding. They're flying over the first cornfield and they're coming to yours.
Yep.
Okay. First flock comes in, does it like the dream. You shoot into them. Okay. And as you're shooting into them, you see the second flock that was coming. That's a half mile away. And they hear you shoot into them. They flare, they spin around, they go land in that cornfield that's right in front of you that they hadn't been landing in, and your day is done.
Correct.
And so now, you're talking a couple hundred geese there, okay? You start doing that with 5, 6, 10, 20,000 mallards. The only saving grace with ducks is they will hop up and they will hopscotch and they will bounce around. So your day is not completely shot like it is.
You still have a little bit of hope.
Yeah. When those early season honkers sit down in that field in front of you, your day's done.
You pick up.
Yeah. You might as well go to the trucks. You're donezo.
There's widgeon everywhere down there.
Yeah.
Oh, I love those things.
Yeah. There's guide's best friend.
How many times have they saved a duck hunt for you?
A lot. A lot.
Gadwall and widgeon, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're the best.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. They're Kansas's wood duck for sure.
What's that?
Kansas's wood duck.
Oh, yeah.
Is a
Yeah.
widgeon.
Yeah. 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 We've had many wood ducks saved mini hunts in Minnesota.
Oh, cornfield hunts?
Yeah.
They just come bombing in.
It's the best.
yeah.
Your hat couldn't be more Tory Hunter crooked
okay.
right now.
It's okay.
That's the Tory Hunter look.
It is.
Yeah. Just slightly crooked.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you start so we're going back to what we were originally talking about as far as Kansas. when you start looking at an area that has changed, you look at just a lot of different things. And if you can take the emotion out of it, like the locals think it's us, okay? And, maybe they're not wrong a little bit, right? But they were still hunting them before we got there. We just hunt them a little bit more consistently. But then you add a couple other outfitters in the area. A lot of those tend to come and go. They might be here for a couple of years and then they're gone. Another one might pop up. But so, you combine increased pressure, reduced water,
later migration.
You're just, it's going to get tough.
Yeah.
And really the thing that saved us down there in Kansas the last couple of years has been, a great juvie hatch. We've shot a piss load we've had a bunch of big snow goose shoots in December down there the last couple of years. And that's been a huge saving grace for us because there's been times and again, it's not that we don't have ducks.
There's not plenty.
They're just not huntable.
They're not huntable. I mean, and that's what I think that's that's the hardest thing for people to understand that don't do it day in and day out. And they don't have a lot of experience field hunting is like, cause we have groups that have been with us a long time. They're like, Graham, what's changed? We don't have ducks. Like, yes, there are ducks here. We just can't hunt them. Like we cannot get you in front of them and an opportunity where you can squeeze the trigger legally to shoot them.
Right.
If you want to, you can go rogue and if you want to go
wait till 10 minutes after shooting light, you can get after them.
You'll have a hell of a hunt. Right. But we can't do that.
Right.
And that's the hardest piece. And it comes down to some clients think you're full of shit. You're just lying to them. And some clients are like, they get it. They don't like it, but they get it. But man, it is, it's really tough. Cause like, even when you guys were on that one, like you were on that hunt and they talked about the number of birds that were in there, everybody was excited. I was excited for you guys. Cause I knew it could be great, but I knew there was a really high risk factor on that hunt. Just for a variety of reasons. And, kind of the worst case scenario, like it probably took there being 50 to 60,000 ducks in there for you to shoot 10.
Yeah.
Right.
Just based on what they were doing. Like,
I mean, that's literally what it took. Cause that's what we shot.
Yeah. I mean, that's just as much as it sucks. Like that's like, if it would have been if you would have had 5,000 mallards feeding in that field, you probably wouldn't have pulled the trigger.
If it had been 20 degrees colder, we probably would have shot them.
Yeah.
Because that cold snap changed out so quick. It was like -8 the day that we hunted the first day.
Yep.
And by day 2 in the afternoon, it was 43.
Right.
That's a hell of a
What are you
swing.
going to do?
Yep.
It's a 51 degree temp swing.
Yep.
And me and Kisner were out there, and Kisner's like, no, I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
It might only be 20 minutes.
Yeah.
He's like, it might be 20 minutes. I'm like, with that many birds, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
We have 10 guys
Yep.
shooting, like, fuck, if that many birds want to come here in the last 20 minutes,
Yep.
we'll be fine.
Yep.
Do you think they'll ever open it up an extra half hour past sunset?
Boy, I think...
Because that was a saving grace in Canada.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if they truly sit down and look at the information, I mean, they got to have... I mean, they should have plenty of data from, like, trackers and that type of thing to see how those feeding patterns are changing and moving. If they are actually using that to look at that, I would sure hope so. But
There's no chance they are, though.
it's going to be tough. I mean, you see how it is, like the fact that just now we are likely going to get a chance to hunt into early December in the very southern half of the state for mallards in Minnesota. Yeah. Is that done deal now? Okay. So I mean, when you can always tell with the DNR, like when it gets to the point where they're actually talking about it, that means it's going to happen. So that's good, but shit, that's 10 years late.
Yeah.
I mean, it took us that long.
Well, when did they take it away? When did they just go
It was
to
in the
one?
90s, wasn't it?
No. It was like
A decade ago?
7 years ago. Where we had 3 zones in Minnesota.
Well, the 3 zones we've had for probably 7-8 years, but like the fact that, we've never been able to hunt past Thanksgiving for mallards here. that I remember. Like I don't.
That's what I was confused about.
The South
when, like,
Zone always had an
people-
extra week to shoot ducks.
Oh, you are. There
But
was.
that was only till December 1st, wasn't it?
There was a 3-year window there where the Southern Zone would go. You're right. Yeah, there was a 3 or 4 year window where it would go. They let the Southern Zone go a week after we would close in the Central Zone.
Yeah, it wasn't like that long ago though.
No, it wasn't. But that was, they do all that stuff. They do those 3-year trials. And then for whatever reason they got rid of it. I don't know, but like the fact that we don't have that, I guess I'm not even going to say, maybe I don't hunt northern Minnesota, so I don't know, but I can tell you in the Central Zone,
We need it.
Bad.
Years ago.
Like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That was eliminated starting in the 2015-2016 season.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was
10
like eight
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah. And I think, so that's a good change, but like that to us, just guys that live it, is very common sense.
No doubt.
I mean, this doesn't take a lot of data to show that, like, if you hang out, if you want to figure out if we should be able to hunt mallards the first week of December, just come sit in the blind with Adam and the Metro crew when they hunt off the Mississippi River, that first week of December. And that's all the data you need to have to know that we should
No
be able
doubt.
to hunt ducks that time of year.
Yeah.
Or look at the ducks.
Just take a drive by the Mississippi River like
Right.
December 5th.
Right. Or drive through Monticello January 1st.
Right.
That is loaded.
No doubt.
Loaded. There was one time, when was it? It was like mid-January this year. We got like warm for a little bit, and I drove by the Albertville Mall.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, School Lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
That
Mid-January,
that residential lake.
there's like 20,000 giant honkers sitting on sheet water on top of the ice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
come
you
on.
should go drive by the river. That'll really get your blood boiling.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of ducks,
Yeah.
this podcast is brought to you by Ducks Unlimited, Graham.
Oh, perfect.
They've been an incredible sponsor, and I'm sure you know all about Ducks Unlimited.
I do.
For the people that don't, you can spend $35 a year to become a member. They usually throw in a cool gift like a Buck Gardner duck call, a quarter zip,
A hat,
something like that. And they do so many great things for our duck conservation. So, guys, go check them out, ducks.org.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we need to switch that shit up
Yep.
pretty hard. And I don't know who to talk to about it.
Well, I think now that the new water, do we have a new waterfall biologist?
That's what I was
yet?
going to ask you. I don't know. I haven't seen anything announced.
Yeah, I mean, we know what happened with the past one, but I have not seen an official new waterfall biologist, and that's probably what it would take. I mean, if
What happened to the last one? Tell the podcast.
I feel kind of bad.
Well,
maybe just
I'll tell.
I don't know.
I'll tell it.
Yeah,
I'll
you
tell
know.
it. But
Yeah.
let me preface this by saying I'm only going to share information that was already written in
Yeah.
another article.
Okay.
All right. But what's his name again? Steve
Cords.
Cords.
Oh, yeah.
Have you not heard this, Joey?
No.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
All I'm going to say, I'm not trying to, I have no idea what's facts and what's not at this point. The article that I read said that he threw a annual meeting, a Mississippi Flyway meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was the waterfall. I think all the waterfall managers were up in Bemidji.
Okay.
And he threw a get together. And he brought his own alcohol in a big bin, bunch of alcohol.
Okay.
And on his way home from that incident, he was pulled over for DUI
In a state vehicle.
in a state-owned vehicle with a bin full of open liquor in the back of his car.
Uh-oh.
I don't know that he was drinking and actually like driving, but
He got fired.
Well, he got a DUI. He was way over.
anyway, what he ended up saying happened is, and I don't want to mix this story up, so I'll try to keep it pretty vague on details here, but he said that he was having some kind of other reaction of some kind or some kind of...
Something about it's a condition that he has that puts pressure on his eyes and can cause hallucinations.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
in the article, he shared the information, so I don't
Yes.
feel that bad saying
Right.
it, but he said that he said that recently before that event, he thinks that whatever this condition is that he has is what caused his DUI.
Yes.
That's what he's claiming. Go ahead. Go ahead, Carter.
He blew a .26.
Pretty bad.
Yep.
And he had shared this story that he had a few weeks prior to that, he had come home and there was a couple of women in his house. And he didn't know who these women were, but he obviously was interested in them staying at his house because then he said he like went out and bought flowers and something wine,
cheese,
some stuff to like make some appetizers.
This is quite the article, huh?
Entertain these ladies.
Yeah.
And they weren't
How
real.
is this? How have I not
And
heard
Joey,
this
and they
story?
weren't real.
They weren't real.
The women
No.
weren't real. It was a hallucination.
I think he had seen like fairies flying around the house.
Yep. Fairies flittering around his house, he said.
Yeah.
This is what he said.
Yep.
So he made this meal for
Carter. You want to just read some of the article for us?
Yeah. First, I saw fairies flittering around my house. Later that same day or the next day, I saw 2 women hanging out in my house I didn't recognize. I have no memory of what I did that day, but the following morning, I found a bouquet of flowers on my table and a receipt from a store that included flowers and some expensive pasta he's never bought.
So he went and bought this stuff to impress these women who weren't real. Mm-hmm. And then he woke up and they weren't real. And then a few weeks later, he blew a .26 driving home with a bunch of liquor from a state event that he threw, or from a Mississippi Flyway event.
Sounds like he's mixing.
Go ahead, Carter.
Before that, he also saw a young girl standing in his bed doing algebraic equations on white ceilings and walls, and flocks of herds of ducks, cats, foxes, and dogs.
Looks like we know who didn't finish algebra.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Carter.
Yep.
Carter. And Steve Cords. Man.
Holy shit, man.
That's all. It's in the Star Tribune.
That's where I'm reading it from. He was diagnosed with 2 holes in the retina of his left eye.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what did or did not, if this actually was caused because of this thing that he has. I have no idea, but a .26 is pretty high.
Yeah.
And anyway, he got let go.
So that's why we don't know if we have a new official one yet.
Well, that's.
I feel like
hopefully
I'm
we
like-
get a less. Hopefully he does a better job.
I just would be nice to be a little. I talked with Steve a few different times, just about this exact thing, and we actually
His DWI.
Not as DWI.
Oh, okay.
No, not the gypsies in his room. But we did talk about extending the duck season, and this was, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and like, what do we have to do? And basically, the argument was always that we have to make it fair for everybody because we got people that like to hunt early season ducks. So we have to make sure that they have their opportunities, and his opinion was always that the data showed that they were ending duck season at the right time, based on the weather and based on freeze up and based on all those things. And, which was always, a struggle for me because like I have eyeballs and I can see that, we are not ending duck season at the right time. Like it doesn't make any sense that the 2 states directly to the west of us keep their duck season open into December that are on the same, same latitude that we are, and we don't. We end our duck season 2 to 3 weeks before then.
And North Dakota's colder than us.
Correct.
So
Right.
Yeah.
Graham, what do you think about early teal?
I don't have a strong opinion on it one way or the other. I've never done it.
Do you think it affects anything for you, like, as you get into duck season?
I mean, it's a pain in the ass when we're, it just, for us, we're focused on honkers.
Right.
We're early, we're focused on early season honkers. So there's a lot of pressure on water. There's no doubt about that. And but it's, it's such a short window. I mean, I'm sure it creates good opportunities for some people that maybe wouldn't have gone out otherwise because it's warm and it's nice and all those things. But like for us as guides, it's we actually don't hunt if the season's open, while, so if early season honkers and early season teal overlap, which they typically do, they shouldn't this year. But we go hunt South Dakota.
Yeah.
Because then we don't have to deal with it.
Right.
So,
Yep.
And we're close enough, for us, it's 20-mile drive to the South Dakota border, so it's not a big deal. But I mean, if it went away, I wouldn't even think twice about it again.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've noticed that we've shot less big ducks on duck opener. The last 4 years, yeah.
Okay.
It sucks. Like, you can look at a couple of the pictures on the wall
Yeah.
from like back in the day.
Yeah.
Mallards, pintail, widgeon,
Yeah.
wood ducks, bigger ducks.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden now it's only teal that we're shooting on opener.
Right.
It scares all the big ducks out.
Yep.
They head north. And they even did a backpack study right over by you. Mm-hmm. They backpacked like 200 mallards, and I think like 90% of them went into Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. That far north? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they went all up into Canada, or most of them. I don't know. I don't know. 10% stayed
Right.
where they were banded.
Yep.
And then all of them, like 90% of them went north.
Yeah.
Like north.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. We don't tend to hunt a lot of ducks on water early in the year, so we wouldn't notice that as much.
Yeah.
But I mean, what you're saying makes sense. I guess I could definitely see that. So, the thing that the thing that doesn't make sense for me is if you're going to do an early teal season, just do it for a weekend. Like, who is okay? So that's going to open up on.
It's like a Tuesday
Right.
every year, right?
Who is out traveling and banging on? Who's doing a week vacation?
Who's that fired up to
Right.
get after some teal for a few days on
who's
Tuesday?
Who's hunting 3-4 days and like traveling to hunt early teal? Like, who's doing that?
Right.
Me?
You would do that?
No.
No. Yeah. But and that was always the argument that I would have with Steve is like, if you're going to open up ducks early, like and we only get so many days, we know that. We all know that, like, here in Minnesota, like, duck opener is usually decent. Like, if you do your scouting, you're going to shoot some ducks, okay, on Saturday. Sunday is going to
Go
be
home.
Yep, Sunday you might shoot some ducks. It's going to be a little bit tougher. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, after that are absolute dog shit.
No doubt.
Like, why are we wasting those days?
No doubt.
If you need to give people a weekend to go out there and shoot some early ducks, like, I get it. Not everybody hunts like me. Like, that's not my priority, but I'm not everybody. Okay. Give them a weekend. Go bang away on those ducks, but let's not waste those days of our duck season when the hunting is terrible and no one, same thing. Like, who do you know? Who hunts ducks September 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Who does that?
Just the way you're asking, you're like so serious.
Yeah.
So
Who?
is there somebody?
Because I would actually like to meet them. Because I
Message maxed out guides on Instagram.
Right.
And tell them that you make an 8-day trip.
Right. Correct.
Oh my God.
Somebody prove the system right. Mm-hmm. Somebody prove the system right.
Yeah. We've sold 4 licenses just for that. It was great. It was a huge win. Yeah.
So, all right, man. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about guides,
Yeah.
because you run a pretty sizable operation and you've
Yep.
had a lot of guys come and go.
Yep.
And, one of the things that Luke and I really took note of while we were down hunting with you guys was just the guides that you have in that house.
Yep.
They seem to at least respect each other quite a bit.
Yep.
So when you're taking young guys, right, and
Yep.
they're learning, and especially, a lot of guys start out scouting, for a guide service.
Yep.
Are there opportunities when they're just scouting? Like, how are you training these guys up? Like, what's your method? Because I've gone to so many different outfitters, and everyone kind of has a different culture.
Yep.
Everyone has a little bit of a different way of running their business. Some
Yep.
guys, they keep people happy because they run a really tight ship.
Yep.
And it's just like, these are expectations. Every expectation is met.
Yep.
If I tell you something, if I'm the outfitter, if I tell you something is going to get done, or you're going to get this bonus, or you're going to get this, promotion, or whatever it is, like, you're going to get it. And
Yep.
like, some guys run their business that way. Some guys run it more like a family, where it's like, all right, we're all here to create one total goal.
Yep.
Like, what's your methodology, and like, where do you start with those guys?
For us, it really is about culture of the guides, because the culture of like how our people are also relay over to our clients. Right. And, if I have, because we've had asshole guides, we've definitely had some of those. And that tends to leak into the clients sometimes. And it is going to be for, at some point it is going to be for everybody, because we get challenging people. And people get tired and people get worn down, and that all happens. Okay. But if you don't have people that are in that house, like these guys that are like doing this stuff together for 7-8 months out of the year, if they don't, you're only good as the person next to you. Right. So, because in this, like, you can't, it's not a one-man job. Like, you can't do this one person. And so, we have to have people that can, treat the people around them with respect and be a human. And not everybody has to be best friends. Not all of our guides are best friends. We definitely develop guide cliques, but we can still be respectful to each other, right? Because we're fucking living together for a long time. And it's a long season, and people get tired and people get hungry, and everybody has their stupid things that annoy the other guides a little bit here and there. And some people's feet smell more than others, and some don't always like to do the dishes, and there's all kinds of little stuff like that. But really, it's just like any business. If you're employing and if you're finding good humans and good people, that's what you got to have.
Yeah, and I think you got to also, like, which I think you've obviously done pretty well, but like, some of your guys that are more senior guides, right? Like, what they start to figure out too is like, you might do more than the young guys.
Yep.
Like, you're gonna do more than the young guys.
Yep.
But also, this shit has to get done.
Yep.
So it's sort of this like natural progression of like the real life, where you're just like, hey, as you get older, you're doing less for you.
Yep.
You're doing more of the things you have to get done.
Yep.
And these things have to get done. So if you don't do them and someone else isn't going to do them, then no one's going to do them.
Yep.
And so guys start to figure that out. And I think that you've got a couple of guides that have really figured that out pretty well, where it's just like, all right, we got to get a general sense of like what's going on here. We got to figure out who's going to handle what. And some of the time that's going to just end up being a lot on my shoulders, but your young guys are coming up and figuring it out. Is there ways that you can like, cause the thing is too, like with some of the young guys that are, when they're learning to scout, there's some challenges there.
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
And so maybe you can just talk a little bit about, because I think a lot of people too that I've like met in person will ask like, well, what are these guide services doing in terms of scouting that they get figured out that like I just can't figure out?
Yeah.
So like where do you start with some of those younger dudes that are like coming in, they don't know what they're doing?
Well, if you're getting into it, you've got to be good at two things. Okay. You've got to be a dynamite scout, number one, or you have to be willing to do all of the shit that nobody else wants to do.
Yeah.
And without asking. Right. That's, and typically new guides typically fall into one of those two buckets, and that's how they make themselves indispensable. I always tell them like, you have to prove to us that we can't keep moving on without you. Like, you provide a lot of value to this company, and you got to figure out something here that you provide a tremendous amount of value for, that you do really, really well, even though you don't know what the fuck you're
just
doing.
like anything.
Yeah. 100%. So for us, like, when guys come in and scout, Mike does a really good job. Mike Peters, he's my guide foreman. He does a really good job of, he'll usually bring them in the truck with him for the first day, and they'll kind of talk through things. And some guys, when it comes to scouting, some guys just get that. Not everybody does. Not everybody is a great scout. And we definitely have our lead guides. We have some scouts that are some guys are just better at scouting than others. I am not a particularly great scout. Mainly from the reason is because I have too much other shit going on for me to stay focused on it. Like, I can't stay off my phone long enough to be a good scout. And I know that about myself. So I don't typically put myself in that position, because I just know, like, I'm going to have too much stuff going on. I want to have somebody here that is on this spot, scouting this spot, that is going to be locked in and ready to go. So really, when we start, how we kind of cultivate the new guides is, they're kind of, their first job is trailer prep every night. And what are we going to need the next day? So that's really the first thing that you have to preach to these guys, is just, consistently doing the little things. Yeah. So, okay, when we're running a water duck hunt, Okay, we're going to need this. Okay, we're going to need floaters. Okay, we're going to need spinners. Okay, we're going to have 2 spinners for sure, and I want for sure at least 1 backup. We're going to hunt an A-frame. Okay, so you need to grab the A-frames that are brushed in really well because we're needing a little bit more. Okay, you need the chairs, right? So you start
chairs always get forgotten.
Right.
I don't understand how.
Yep. So you just start going through that stuff with them, just kind of step by step by step all the way through. And like for our guides, that's kind of like anytime that's new, that like for my myself and Mike and Marcus and Dalton, some of those guys that have been around for a while, that's kind of our nightly rite of passage is like, we're going to be in here kind of formulating things, getting ready with the plan. You need to go get the trailers ready, get the blinds ready. Do we need a hedge trimmer? Does the hedge trimmer have gas in it? If it's a battery powered hedge trimmer, is the battery powered? All of that little shit. And we always just tell the guys, like, it's such a little thing, but like we do this stuff at night because if you do it in the morning, you're gonna forget.
1,000%.
Yeah. You have to get this. So you just start setting that expectation for them and you start creating those habits, those good habits early that make, and if, you start seeing people slip or they're like, we'll get it in the morning. It's like, guys, just get it done now. If you leave it to the morning, you're going to forget something and then you're going to be fucking pissed off.
Yeah.
And then Mike is going to be pissed off, or Marcus or Dalton is going to be pissed off, or I'm going to be pissed off, like, and none of us wants that because we got too much other shit going on, so like, let's do the little things right the first time. And so that's really how you start with it. When it comes to scouting with a new guide, that takes a long time. And it takes a long time for guides to learn everything that we need to know, like little details of like, okay, this is where the bird's getting down in the field. Okay, well, how do we get there? Because we're going to go into this field that we have never been in before. How do we access the field?
You're going to save yourself 20 minutes in the morning.
Right. How do we access the field? And once we access the field, how are we getting to that spot? Are there any ditches? Are there, are there any wet spots that we're going to have to go through?
Yep.
Like, those are all variables that, as you guys know, can turn a morning sideways right fucking now.
No doubt.
When you're in a field you've never been in before and you don't know how to get around and you know where you want to be, but you don't know how to get there. And you think you thought you knew how to set up, but then you didn't. And oh, by the way, that place that you want to hunt where all those birds were going down in yesterday, the wind is completely wrong for it.
Yeah. Yeah, the most impressive thing I've ever seen, honestly, from like a guy that was like learning, scouting, guiding, whatever. And to give this guy some credit, Hunter Denabo, who was guiding at Dry Creek when I went there, he was, I don't want to say a lot of waterfall guides are a little rough around the edges, but
they can be.
He was a lot more cleaned up.
Yep.
He had a degree. He was doing it like for a fun job for 1 year before his real world kind of started. But man, this guy, he had timestamp notes of it. He'd have a note sheet and it would say 7:08 a.m., roughly 100 widgeon, drop in this corner of the field. 7:10 a.m., roughly 30 mallards, and you'd write everything down. Then he would have like a map, of where you're going to go in, how you're going to get to the spot in the field, where you should set up. He'll tell you, he'll look ahead, see what the wind is for tomorrow, all that stuff. And like this guy was like bringing these reports back, and I remember even like Rustin, the owner of Dry Creek, was like, dude, I just like, this kid's a rock star. Like, I mean, I'm getting the most detailed notes I've ever gotten in my life. Like, I know everything about this field and I've never seen it. And that's just like one of those things that's just really hard to teach, I think, like getting guys on that page.
Right. Well, and the other thing is like, that's a 1% of guides that go to that level consistently. But the other thing is, like, if you have a senior experienced guide and you're the new guy and you found the spot that we're going to go hunt and you're excited because, that's a big deal for them.
No doubt.
For a new guide to go out and find a spot, got a bunch of birds, track down permission, track down the farmer, track down the landowner, get permission, get everything set up, get it all, like, that is a tremendous amount of pride for them. Okay. And when they show up for that hunt and you've got your lead guide fucking berating you at 4:00 in the morning because you don't know how to get through that pasture to get to that spot.
Right. deflates your sales a little bit.
real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's just a lot of shit. And most of that stuff you just don't know until you have done it over and over and over again. And, you know, we were talking, you know, we talk about like hunts earlier, and I was talking like, you know, you tell clients the truth and they either believe you or they don't. Like they either think you're full of shit, or they've been out with you enough so they kind of understand that, yeah, it might not be how you wanted, but that's the truth. And as these guides go through these things and they start living these truths out over and over and over again, they're like, oh God, that's why Graham always tells me the same thing
Over and over.
And he asks me the same questions over and over and over. And what about this? And what about that? And because that's just what it takes. You know, that's just like, if you want to be elite at this job, if you want to be great at this job, like that's what it takes.
Yeah, I want to ask you another thing too, Graham. But before we get into that, this podcast is also sponsored by Onyx Hunt. And if you guys aren't using Onyx, especially if you're trying to find birds, it's going to make your life a little bit more difficult. So go use our discount code MWF20 for 20% off your membership right now. You know, I think one of the things that is really interesting about, you know, that scenario where like guys are having this like monumental win, you know, how do you deal with the young guys being like sleep deprived? Because I think that is something that is way overlooked.
Yeah.
And dude, like when you're running like that,
Yep.
man, when you're young dude coming into it and you're excited, and you know, you might go a whole season, you might only find a couple of fields.
Yep.
Maybe one of them is a fuck up.
Yep.
You know, you forgot the gas and the trimmer.
Right.
It's just been, you know, it's like one
Yep.
thing after another, and you're getting 3 hours of sleep a night.
Yep.
You know, like, what do you do about that? And I noticed one thing too, like that you guys do is you'll cycle guys quite a bit.
Yep.
So are you guys just like are you relying mostly on like your, you know, lead guides, your foreman, you know, Marcus, your main guys to be like, no, this dude needs a minute. Like he's not ready.
You know, so when we come to new guides now, I don't like, just in the last, month or so, I've had a couple of new guides that were recommended to me, and so you know, it came in from referral, and I don't even talk to them first anymore. I just send them to Mike Peters because I am optimist. I'm an optimist. Okay, and I can see the best in everybody, and I will continue to see the best in everybody until they are hitting me in the face with a cast iron pan, telling me that they are not right. And I continue, like I can see, like I know that if they do this and do this and do this, that they can do it and they can be it. More often than not, they can't. And Mike's got a much quicker cord with that than I do. Like he's more willing to pull the cord quickly than I am. But I have to balance that sometimes, because sometimes he thinks a guy doesn't have it. And I'm like, let's just give him a little bit of time. Sometimes he's right. Sometimes I'm right. You know, it just, you know, but ultimately we're just looking to make the best decision that we can with the information. So, you know,
because nobody's prime on 3 hours of sleep 7 nights in a row.
No.
Like, you're in big trouble, dude.
No.
Like,
So when you're new, I always tell the new guys, like, you guys have to sleep. You have to sleep when you can. You're going to be like, you know, I mean, you're at the lodge, right? You're there with the guys. I mean, we're on fucking vacation.
when you're 19, it's hard to go to bed when the
Yes.
boys are playing cards. But the difference between a new guy and Marcus is
Yep.
Marcus knows what he's fucking in for this whole week. You know what I
Correct.
mean? Like
Yep.
if he's choosing that,
Yep.
he'll fight through it. He's been there, like he's done it. But
Yep.
like this guy, 4 or 5 days of 2-3 hours of sleep a night.
Yep. You just can't do it. And like I said, I just like, guys, you have to get your sleep. Like you're just going to want to, and I get it. I've been there. You can't do this job tired and hungover.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work, because you're going to forget shit. And if you forget shit, that's going to affect our clients' hunts. And if it affects our clients' hunts, that it's going to affect your employment. So,
Right.
you know, you have to be dialed. And, you met Hunter Vasek. Mm-hmm. Man, the thing, I love that kid when I first started, because he was the only new guide that I've ever met that would beat me to bed.
Yeah.
His first year. he would every night, like he would be in bed before I did, you know, because the guys are always like, "Oh, come on, Graham, let's stay up for one more." And I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna take my gummy and I'm gonna go sleepy night." But Hunter would, you know, he'd be in. I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing."
Yeah, this kid's getting 7 hours of sleep every night.
I've never seen anything like this before. Now, year 2, a little bit different story.
Yeah, he loosened up a little bit.
Loosened up a little bit, but honestly, that's what it takes. Because you just and naps. I mean, you just got to fucking
totally,
nap.
man. You
just have to nap, and that is probably the. I mean, that's probably the hardest thing to get guys to do more than going to bed early. Is like you've got that window during the day, you have to sleep. You have to like get an hour.
Yeah.
You know, more often than not. I mean, somebody like Dalton goes into a coma for like 4 hours at a time.
Yeah.
And that's just what he needs during the day. So
I can't.
You can.
I can't do the nap because I wake up hot and so sweaty and guaranteed an asshole.
Oh.
I feel like shit.
Yeah.
I feel gross. I'm like totally out of it. Or I'll
sleep. You're an asshole off a nap for sure.
Or I'll sleep for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And now I can't go to bed.
Right. Oh.
I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So
I here's the thing though. You can nap when you need a nap, your body will just be like, you are gonna fucking nap.
Yeah.
Dude. You
Especially
can fight
like
it all you want. But
early season, September honkers, like when you got to get up, you know, if you're driving 45 minutes
So
to go hunt
brutal.
somewhere and
Oh
you're
my
up at 3:00 in the morning.
yeah.
And you just like, by the time we get done with that, and it's like, I've got 2 things. I'll start telling the clients, like when I know the hunts start winding down, I'll start talking about breakfast at about 9:00 in the morning.
No doubt.
Hash browns, bacon, eggs, all those things. Because I know the hunt's about done anyway. We might get one more flock, you know, but if you don't start doing that stuff and you know, it's 10:30, you get out of there, then you got to eat, and then you got to eat, then you got to go, you got to get a nap in. And you got the evening hunt, the scout coming up. So, but no, really, that's probably the biggest thing for the new guides is just really learning to manage their time and manage their sleep and just making sure that they're taking care of themselves. And like,
a lot of young guides I talk to don't realize that it's basically just like a fucking brutal job.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just, you think you're super excited when you're young and you're like, man, I love hunting ducks and geese. I'm going to go guide. And then then you're like, yeah, you're getting up at 3 a.m. For like 3 fucking weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And you forgot everything. And you're not sleeping and
And you know, when the hunting's good, it's not as big of a deal, right? The challenge is when you get that, you know, that October full moon that shuts everything down, or you get that big cold front where we start making a bunch of ice and the birds stop feeding in the morning and they just go to an evening feed. Or if it's like, you just get that stretch where it's just clear and cold.
Yeah.
I hate that one.
That's the worst.
I hate
You just literally don't have an opportunity to kill birds.
No.
It's just done.
Sleep.
You're just done.
Just go to sleep.
Yeah. So those are the stretches where you have to be, you know, you have to be on your game because everybody gets short. Then it's wearing on everybody.
Yeah.
The clients are frustrated. The guides are frustrated. The guides are looking at it, knowing they're refreshing their weather feed 4 times a day, just hoping
just praying
to see something other than, you know, a high of 35, a low of 10 and no clouds for the next 7 days.
Yeah.
I mean, it just.
Do you time out your trips knowing that you're getting to that point in the season where like they need someone to come in and like cook and clean and just
definitely
be a dad and say, hey, make sure everybody's doing okay?
Yep, definitely. I know, you know, especially in Western Minnesota, it's a little bit different because I can just kind of go back and forth. It's, you know, it's 2.5 hours. It's not a big deal. But when we're down in Kansas, I mean, there's definitely times like, you know, we've got 5 kids, so we got a lot of shit going on. We've got sports, we got all kinds of stuff. But there's times that there's stretches of the season that I know I need to be there because I need to be there to cook, to make a meal, shake things up for everybody, just give, you know, they don't have to listen to fucking Brendan's jokes anymore. Now they can listen to my jokes, you know? So
the first day I got there, the guys, we were like leaving the field, and Marcus was talking about the rest of the day, and we had a tough hunt. I don't think we shot anything that first morning I was there.
Yep.
It was like -8.
Yep.
And
I know for sure you didn't.
Yeah, there you go.
-8. Yeah.
And he was like, what are we doing after this? And he's like, yeah, well, Graham's here, so we're gonna be eating good.
Yeah.
He's like, that's all I know, man. I'm pumped about that. It's just like someone's gonna make good food, and someone's gonna be able to clean the house up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were like just pumped as fuck about that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like the fact that you were just gonna make dinner and like pick up some trash. You know, they were like, hell yeah.
Yeah, when they can roll in and there's a meal already ready to go, or it's about to be done, and they smell that and they walk in and I've got beers for them. It's just like
everything's a little better.
Everything's a little bit better.
Yep.
They're less annoyed with what the other guy did or what the other guy forgot. And I mean, it's
when you roll in and there's like tenderloin on the fucking stove and some garlic bread and some beers, you're like, all right, it's gonna be all right.
That's not so bad.
That's when you take an involuntary nap.
Yeah.
Come in hit a gummy. You hit a gummy and hit a good nap.
Yeah.
If it's -8 and I come in and there's a baked potato, and some sirloin and a beer ready for me, I'm gonna pass the fuck out.
Oh, dude, Graham made this tenderloin the one night we were there. Yeah. Everyone was so fired up.
Yeah, it was pretty solid.
Couldn't even imagine.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
There was one more thing I was going to talk to you about. I had Carter pull up the duck numbers.
Yep.
For last year, when you look at those duck numbers, does that scare you? Does that mean that we're just going to have a terrible freaking year, especially with how, like, I looked at a map this year of the drought conditions of the prairie pothole region.
Yep.
It's not looking great.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to have a bad hatch? Because I haven't seen a whole lot in the metro here.
The honker hatch seems to have been really strong from what I've seen. And one of my guides, I was just talking with Adam today, and he said he's starting to see some ducks. We were dry. We were really dry. We did get, was it 2 weeks ago? We got that, it was like 5 inches of rain we got over that weekend.
10 days, something like that.
It was Easter, wasn't it? We got a shitload of rain over Easter.
No, this was
like 10 days ago, right?
Yeah,
it was in May.
Not last weekend, but the weekend before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Because it was right after we planted the corn at the cornhole when it was dry. And so we lost about half of that. So that was great. Yeah, super fun. Super fun. Just was there today looking at that. But anyway, so far, if it wasn't for, like, if we had a lot of water, I think this would have probably been a pretty ideal spring. So the weather still, I think for me, like, I guess I always think about it, like, even though we were dry, the nesting conditions were pretty solid. We didn't get any of those late snowstorms, which is just always, those April snowstorms that's what fucks us every time. Like, that's just what decimates the hatch.
Pheasants and ducks.
Yeah, and we just didn't have that in honkers. So I'm hopeful. But at this, like last June, if you guys remember, like last June was like the wettest. I'd never seen anything like it before.
Yeah, I've never seen so many ducks and like freaking potholes just filled up with water all around by my house.
Everywhere.
Nuts.
But then we didn't get rain from mid-August until mid-October, and then it all went away.
Yeah.
So I would expect a pretty good Minnesota season next year, just based on what I've seen from the hatch. Like our early seasons, we haven't had a great early season it might have been since like 2020. Like it was either 2020 or 2021.
2020 was legendary.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
It was so good.
Mike Peters and I guided a lot that year, and we had a stretch of like, we went 27 days in a row where we only hunted the morning because we didn't have to hunt the afternoon because we just shot the fuck out of them every morning.
Nice.
We have not had a year like that in quite a while.
Yeah.
Because that is a luxury as a guide. Like that's as good as it gets. But I am hopeful. Like we had a decent hatch last year. Our September was okay. It wasn't great. If we could get, if these honker numbers can stay strong, and some of the honkers are getting big already, it would just be awesome if we could just have a lights out September again. Cause I know there's a lot of wheat this year. And so there's a lot of food. If we can
I've been
have a good
seeing
hatch.
a shitload of molts this week.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Last 2 weeks I've been seeing them rolling pretty
Groups
hard.
of 50 plus.
Yep.
Constantly.
Yeah, I was just out for my walk in Rogers this week, and I had a flock of 40 over, and then a couple minutes later it was a flock of 50, and then another flock of 40.
Yeah.
So they've definitely been rolling hard. Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's good.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, if we just keep on this pace, and if we can just, if we can get a little bit more water, I think we might be okay for ducks, and I think we should have, it should be a pretty good hatch this year. And, all this stuff is cyclical. So it's been dry. It's been dry for, 3-4 years now, especially down in Kansas. Kansas has had a lot of rain this spring. So they've had some big rains. So we're starting to get optimistic about down there.
Think you might get some of your stuff back?
I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I mean, last year we have a spot that we manage for flooded corn down there. We pump in water off the river. We have a permit for it. They had never seen that before. The water was so low we couldn't actually pump water out of the river.
Wow.
Yeah. Because there wasn't enough water to make the pump work. I mean, it was crazy.
That's insane.
That's insane. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So that's that's bad. Like when you're talking about that's bad. So hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully that those things start coming back a little bit. And, last couple of years, you see it with pheasants. Last year, the pheasants were crazy out in western Minnesota.
Yeah.
And, pheasants typically run on cycles as well. So, hopefully those things are all pointing towards kind of a rebound. But if we don't get water, it's hard to hunt waterfowl without water.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, just
know
foul.
that for sure.
Just foul at that point.
Put that on a t-shirt. Yeah.
All right, before we close quick, guys, I just want to say this podcast is also brought to you by First Light, and First Light has some awesome pieces out for summer. One of my favorite pieces is the Wick hoodie. So it's super lightweight, really comfy, perfect for those late summer nights if you're going to sit by the bonfire, go bow fishing, whatever. So go check those out. Be a perfect Father's Day gift for anybody who's looking for a gift for their husband.
Hint.
Or if you're listening and you want to give your wife a hint of something you might like, or your girlfriend, go ahead and let her know. That's
share
what you
this
want.
podcast with her,
Yeah, exactly. See if she'll listen. She won't. But thank you guys so much for listening. Graham, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Absolutely, bud.
Yeah, we'll have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
I think this is your third time on now?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Recurring guest, Graham
Lit.
Greseth.
Lit.
If you guys want to book a hunt, do you have anything? Do you have some stuff open?
Yeah, Minnesota is filling up pretty quick. We've got some September stuff for early honkers yet. October, November, it's mainly midweek stuff we have left. We've got some stuff in Kansas, but if you're looking for ducks, you definitely want to get a hold of me soon.
Yeah, and I want to say too, for some reason, when people are just not shooting ducks, or I'm sorry, geese, especially, I don't know what it was with you guys last year.
Yeah,
What the hell?
it was awesome.
I mean, everyone else is getting shit on.
Them.
Yeah.
You guys were having awesome hunts, and I feel like I was talking to you during part of it, and guys, you were like, I'm sending guys out, and I have no idea. I don't think they're even going to shoot anything. And then it would be like, yeah, they shot a limit. You know, it's just like...
Every hunt just worked out last year. It was crazy.
So go hunt with Maxed Out Guides. Check them out. Go to the website. Check Maxed Out Guides on Instagram. That's it, man. Thank you guys for listening.
Hop on the email list. Go on our website. Hop on our email list.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's clutch.
All right, we'll see you guys on the next one. Hey, Graham, one more thing.
Yeah.